You're listening to the Entrepreneurs Next Door podcast.
Work's been breaking my back, already packing my bags. Punch that time card like a ticket out of here.
Welcome to today's episode of Entrepreneurs Next Door podcast with Haddonfield resident Ryan Regina from Big Sky. Please enjoy his story of learning from his dad, stepping out on his own with his brother, and all the little nuggets of wisdom along the road. Please enjoy. This is Barry Hoover with the Entrepreneurs Next Door podcast, and I'm with Ryan Regina from Blue Sky.
Big Sky.
Big Sky. And earlier, I was talking with George from Morano's, and I was like, George, can you say your last name for me? Because there's a G in it, like Morelia. And how many times, Reese? 7? And I'm watching them. I'm like really concentrating, and I still didn't say Miraglia properly.
Blue Sky happens at least once a week.
Yeah. And it's like
Big Sky's every day.
Big Sky happens every day.
Big Sky.
Sky's not always blue though.
It's always sunny.
But it's big. Big. So I'm with Ryan Regina from Big Sky, and I know I have the privilege actually of knowing your family a little bit, and when you agreed to say, hey, I want to be on, I know the depth of how you came into business entrepreneur-wise is like a full story, and so as you share it, that journey, please know, I know family is like a part of it, and you can jump into any areas you want. I know I'm looking forward to hearing the journey, because I know it's good, and actually not even close to over, which is a side note. But if you could let us know where that started for you, we'd love to hear it.
So I grew up in an amazing family. Had great father, great mother, great stepmother, who I actually have known since I was 4 years old. We had an amazing upbringing. Even though our parents were divorced at a young age, they did an amazing job just protecting us from those behind the scene things, and we're grateful for that. My father was the first entrepreneur or business owner in our family. He moved down here from Connecticut in the late 60s when he married my mom, and was actually a high school teacher at Sterling High School. He was a phys ed teacher. He was a driver's ed teacher, did that for a few years. Part-time work in the summers, he would do concrete work for Scarborough Builders. And after a while, he realized that teaching was not his passion as far as his occupation goes. He wanted to get into the construction field, so he took a full-time job with them. After a couple years, he realized that he could do this on his own, and he did that. And for several years, or 4 or 5 years, he had a very successful concrete business, which eventually evolved into him doing single-family homes, custom home building. And through the 70s into the early 80s, he did a lot of custom home building in South Jersey. And then in the mid 80s, he got into commercial development, did some buildings that you still see today on Route 70 and Cherry Hill and really all over the South Jersey area. And then as you got into the late 80s, there was a recession in 89, and then in 90, the whole market just fell out. And he got back into concrete work again. He kind of hit that reset button and restarted his start, if you will, which happened to be the same time that my brother and I were in high school, and we cut our teeth, you could say, in the concrete business. We were laborers in his concrete company. We joke around and we always say that we were so low in the company that we weren't even on the totem pole. We were like a few steps away from the totem pole. I was looking at, I got coffee for everybody, and if I messed up the orders, I'd get yelled at, and, may have had a few tools thrown at me when I was 14 or 15 years old.
You were the gopher?
Yeah, I was the gopher. And then eventually, we grew and we learned, and, the beautiful thing about it is that our father taught us a trade. He taught us how to work with our hands, and that's something that, you never forget how to do as long as you can physically do it. So through high school, we did that, and then by the time we got into college, my dad had gotten back into commercial development. So we kind of, like, our process, our growth, if you will, in the industry that we're prominent in, real estate and construction management, it really grew with him in his his rebirth, in his entrepreneurial journey. So we did that. We did construction management for our father, building commercial office buildings. We were project managers. We were superintendents. We were, you name it, we did it. He taught us everything. He taught us the administrative side in the back office. He taught us how to, do conceptual planning. He taught us the financing world. He taught us how to look for properties, how to maybe conceptually design sites from the civil engineering side. He taught us so much. In the short period of time that he had us, from 14 to, I'd say, 26, but really full time for 4 years for me, 7 years for my brother. So, and our dad's an old school Italian guy, right? So he is not one to, really make sure that you understand what he just said. It's, he said it, now go do it, and I'll see you in a little bit, and let me know how you make out. It's funny, we kid around because a lot of times he would send me and my brother out to do something knowing that we were probably going to fail on what he has asked us to do. And we didn't realize it until we got back into the office. He'd have a grin on his face. How'd you make out today? Not so good. We couldn't even do what you've asked us to do because there wasn't, we weren't allowed to build this according to the construction official. And he's like, well, do you know why? He said, yeah, he told us we didn't have this proper application in here. And he'd hold up the application. He's like, is it this application right here? I told you to fill out a week ago, and you didn't fill it out. You just cost me $1,000. I mean, it was things like that he would just make lessons. See, my dad never stopped being a teacher, right? He's still a teacher to this day. When that's in you, it's just in you. So I remember the very first project he had me run. We were doing a car dealership in South Philly for, in the auto mall there. It was for Hyundai, and they wanted to renovate their showroom. It wasn't it was maybe like 5,000 square feet renovation, and he says to me, I think I'm 23, he says, you're going to run this job. And I said, with who? He said, by yourself. I said, are you sure? He's like, yeah, I'm sure you're ready. You're ready. Within about a week, I had hives like all over my neck. I wasn't sleeping at night. I was restless all the time. I had guys on the job site who were 30 years older than me. I'm telling them what to do. They're looking at me, telling me to take a hike, and all these things. And I would mess up. I'd not execute something properly. I had things out of order. I got the flooring guy here and the paint guy should be there, and I'm reporting back to my dad, and he's just like, this is your problem. You gotta fix it. It's not my problem, it's your problem. So, it was like a baptism by fire, right? I think we coddle and we hold hands from people who were trying to develop within our organization so much, and we never let them go and fail. Right? I mean, it's just, everyone, it seems to learn a lot more when they fail as opposed to just walking around holding their championship trophy belt in their hand and just saying, look what I did, look what I accomplished, right? So, my biggest growth in my business world was in 2008 and 2009 when we almost went out of business, right? I mean, we were a month and a half away from being broke, we were just that close, right? I mean, there was
the whole family business?
No, just our business.
Your business, okay.
I'm kind of like skipping around here because I have ADD, so it's fine.
Yeah.
I learned the most there. I was able to rechart, and we were able to kind of just sit back and say, hey, how do we avoid from this happening again? So anyway, I digress. So back in I graduated college in 99. In 2003, this was maybe 2 or 3 projects after that car dealership project had happened. And it did end up being successful. Like, eventually, it was good, right? I was still my father's son, still in the family. Thank you, Jesus.
Still welcome at dinner.
Still welcome at dinner. And in 2003, my brother and I had brought our first project to our father's company, right? We were so proud because up until then, we were just leeches, right? I mean, we were feeding off of our father's success, and as sons, if you've got a good father, if you have a father, you just innately want to just please your dad. You just want to show them that you can do it. So we were excited. We had a pastor of my church came up to me and said, "Hey, Rod, you think your dad's company would build a gym for our new school we're building?" I said, "Maybe." So my brother and I went to our dad and we're like, "Hey, Dad, look, we got some good news. We got a possible opportunity here." And he says, "Well, what is it?" He says, "Gym for my church. Pastor wants to know if you do it." And he says, "I'll tell you what. We'll consider it. You guys put everything together, put the package together to present to the church. But first, you're going to present to me." So keep in mind, at this time, I'm 26, my brother's 29. We've got the entrepreneurial bug to take our dad's company to another level, right? Our dad's company was small at the time. He had been big in the 80s, and he was at a point in his life where he was just like, "I don't want to be big again. Like, I've done this. I just want to do a few projects a year, be with my family, Sunday gravy, and let's just, have some grandkids here." So we get there, and we spend about maybe 3 weeks putting together this proposal for this gym, and we present to our father, and it wasn't a big job. It was maybe, I'm just going to use a $500,000, it was like a renovation. It was converting a multi-purpose room into a gym. So we present to our dad, and our dad says, "Looks great. You guys did a good job. My sons can do this." My dad's a proud father too. He says, "There's only one problem. You're about $40,000 low on your overhead costs." And we were like, "There's no way. How are we low?" So he showed us a couple things, and we were like, "Look, I get it. That's maybe what we normally do for a regular client, but this is a church, right? The last organization you want to upset is the church, and the last person you don't want on your side is God, right?" So we didn't express that to our dad. We're just like, "No, we really feel like this is the right number." So he said, "You know what?" Our dad was, he was always keen on driving around and thinking, right? That was like one of his things to do. Like, he would just go drive around, look at properties, but think. I mean, just kind of like, he wasn't just, he was multitasking, but he's thinking. So an hour later, he comes back and he says, "Boys, come here. I've got the solution here." He said, "You two want to take this company to a different level that I don't want to really take it to. I don't want to go and be big again and grow and do all this. And you guys have a different vision, and that's great. You guys are going to go," and he pointed to my brother Mike's, pointed to him, not to his body. He pointed to his body, and he said, "You're going to go to his townhouse. He has a 3rd-floor loft. You're going to open up a company, your own company, and this is going to be your first project." So we were like, yeah. I mean, we were ecstatic, right? Because Mike and I had been, talking about it before at times, and we were, just obviously without our father's blessing, we wouldn't do it. So our dad was instigating this, so we said, "Great." We were too young to really know, and too dumb to not understand what really we were getting into, but we were getting into it. So we went, so about, I guess it was like the next day, we went to my brother's house, we mapped out the loft, and we figured out what we were going to do, but we had one problem. We had one problem that was left. We had to go to the church and present to the church this project, right? So we present to the church the project, and the pastor, who was a businessman, he's had a very successful business in Cherry Hill at the time. We present to him the project, and he's like, "This looks really good." He's like, when can we start? We said, "Well, we can start right away. It's just one small change." And he says, "What's that?" I said, "Our dad's company is not going to be building this building. It's going to be our new company, Big Sky, that we're starting this week, actually. We just started the company, and we're going to build it." And the pastor looked at us kind of like sideways, and he looked at his CFO of the church. It was a big church, and he's looked at him like, what's going on here? And he's like, "Ryan, that's interesting." He's like, "We were just under the impression that your dad's company was going to build it, not some new company." He said, let me pray about it, right? He gave me the let me
pray
about it. Let me drag this on for a day or two before I tell you no. 2 days later, we get a phone call from the CFO, and the CFO says, I talked to pastor. I told the pastor that you guys are more than capable of doing this project. And the pastor turned to me and said, well, if they can't, you're fired, like sarcastically. So we got the project, right? And that was like God opened, like we kind of like, that was, it's a God story, right? I mean, like God just opened the doors. And there's some more backstory to it, but I know we're limited on time and maybe talk to you offline about it. But there's a tremendous amount of God's hand that was happening through that process that allowed for that to happen. And it was really a function of obedient steps that we were taking, trying to honor God, honor our family, honor our father and all that just, these doors just swung wide open. We ended up doing about 4 or 5 projects for the church, which was my church at the time. And the relationship was obviously awesome. I mean, they kept bringing us back. And so we really, really enjoyed it. So that was really how we started Big Sky. That's kind of how, it came about.
Mm. That's amazing. Have you? How often do you think back to that? Because I feel like that's a moment where when you have doubt and fear, maybe about like next level things.
Yeah.
Like realistically speaking, how often do you go back to that and remember how that started?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the company that I have, Big Sky, is just it's a part of me, right? It's very hard for me to separate work from anything, right? And that's not a bad thing per se. It's not bad that we carry that with us. What's bad is when our work dictates to us all the things that we need to be doing, and it shouldn't be. I mean, that's not what entrepreneurship is about. It's not about just running around and just going for win after win after win. It's about balance, right? So, but nevertheless, because it's so ingrained in us, and we've really, when you walk into our office in our conference room, the very first picture you see is that first project, right? That's where we started, right? And so it's memorialized there. But looking back and seeing how this thing all came about, I'm just grateful that Mike and I can look at each other and say to ourselves that we really had nothing to do with this. This was truly a God thing, because Mike and I aren't that smart anyway. So it's not like we could have like crafted that plan anyway. So yeah, I mean it's something that we constantly think about, because it's a story that we share a lot as well. Right.
So now hearing you guys start in the loft of Mike's townhouse. You guys aren't there anymore.
Correct.
Life's quite different now.
Yeah.
Could you connect some milestones for us as to how Big Sky operates now? Sure. Because it's way different.
Yeah. So back then in 2003, it was me and him in a 20 by 20 loft, right? And it's pretty 400 square feet. It's pretty spacious, right? I mean, that's a lot of room. We had a little chipping area that we chipped, balls into. We had things that when we were kind of doing downtime, it was pretty cool. Eventually, I think in around 2005, Mike moved out of, or 2004, moved out of that loft, and he bought a house in Fox Hollow Woods in Cherry Hill. And there was a office in the house. Now, we got downgraded in size from a 20 by 20 to a 10 by 10. So his desk and my desk were tucked in the corner of the office. And if you backed up more than, I think, 2.5 feet, you'd back up into the other person's chair. So what separated our office from his house was a laundry room. So you walked in from the garage into a laundry room, and if you went left, you were in the kitchen and in the house. If you went right, you were in the office. He had a 3-year-old and a 2-year-old, they're awesome, and they were the cutest kids then. And they would run in the office. We'd be on the phone trying to do business, and it was hilarious. People would just, what's going on in the background there? Oh, nothing. TV's a little loud. We're turning it down, sir. Apologize. So we were there from like 2004 to 2007, and then in 2007 we moved into our first office building, which was in Voorhees, and that was about 1,500 square feet. And in there we had about 4 people. Me, my brother, we had a receptionist, and we had another finance person there. And we were there for 5 years, and those were 5 of the toughest years of our business, right? Because as 07 was ending, we were starting to kind of see the business wasn't as great as it was in 03. When we came into business, 03, 04, the market was booming. I mean, you'd turn around and you'd have an opportunity in front of you, kind of like it is today. I mean, it's not as good as it is today. Today, it's even better. But back then, it was just opportunity. And 08 came, and the well just dried up. And then 09 came, and we went from doing, if I'm using, I guess sales numbers, and this is just like building numbers that we were building. I think back then we were doing maybe $2 or $3 million worth of work a year. In 09 we did $400,000 worth of work. Right now we had some lines of credits that we had on our business that we hadn't touched for the whole time we were in business, and we started tapping into those just to carry our overhead. And then by the end of 09, it was, I think, October of 09. My brother and I were talking, we were having like a weekly meeting like we do, and we were just talking about our budget and our finances, and we were like, yeah, we're about 3 months away from not having any more money. Like nothing, like zero. So we weren't laughing at the time, but it was just the reality. And I'll never forget, I walked back to my brother's after I went back to my office, and I got up, I walked back, and I turned to my brother. I said, you know what? I said, I don't care. You know what? We need a ram in the bush from God right now. And it's either there or it's not there. And we had this one project that we were trying to develop in the process of that we weren't sure if it was going to start or not going to start. But we knew that wasn't the ram because there was too much. It just wasn't solid enough to get a good handle on it. This was going to start, and like a week later, we ended up walking away from the deal because there was just some things that were being done that just integrity-wise that we didn't want to be a part of. And when we walked away, Mike looked at me and he's just like, "Dude, this is all we've got." And I was just like, "Dude, remember ram in the bush? We need the ram in the bush." A week later, we got a call. It was another church project in Willingboro. And this church just had gotten taken advantage of by this builder in North Carolina, and they needed a builder. Within 2 weeks, we had a contract. Within 3 weeks, we had permits, and within a month, we were under construction, right? I mean, it was just 11th hour. The ram just showed up, and we were able to get through that. So from 09 and 10, it was just Mike and I. I mean, we were just skinny, right? So eventually, in the middle of 10, we were able to hire somebody, and then in 11, we hired someone again. And today, there's about 10 of us in the company. So there was a point in time when Mike and I started the company where we did the sales, we did all the accounting, we did all the job superintendent, the supervision, the project management. We were everything, right? And it was a good thing because we were able to learn and grow more and know what all the parts were, and we really had a good handle on what we were doing. But at some point in time, if you want to grow anything in business, you just have to start firing yourself from certain positions and then replacing them really with people who are better than you at it. It's that really want to get good at something, you have to hire people and really surround yourself with smarter people than you. And there's plenty of smarter people in our company than my brother and I. And that's kind of where we are today. And we're in we're really in a season right now where it looks like in the next, I'd say 3 to 6 months, we're going to be making a few more hires and continue to grow. And it's really good. It's really good.
It's amazing. Before I move on, how has Dad been seeing when you guys started with that first church project, to now? Is he a cheerleader?
Yeah.
How's
Yeah. So actually, in 2013, he's kind of say he's not going to ever stop working. My dad is that way. But in 2013, where his thing was kind of coming to an end, he came in the office one day and looked at a set of plans, and he said, "Who's building this?" And we were like, "We haven't picked anyone to by build it mean like manage the construction for the company." He's like, "I'll do it," and we're like, "What?" He's like, I'll be the superintendent out in the field," and we're like, "What?" He's like, "I want to do it. I'll do it," and we just said, "Okay." So he's been with us now for 5 years, 5 years, and you have him out there. He's the most overqualified job site superintendent you'll ever meet. Every client we had that ever has him, whenever they have to build something else, it's always prefaced with, "We're only going to build it if your father is on the job," right? That's just, and we have other guys in our company who get the same reaction. But there's just there's this Papa Bear thing that my dad has, that when you've given my son's work, I'm going to just take care of you. That's just how he's wired that way. So yeah, he's a huge show. I see him all the time now, which makes it's like full circle, right? It's so cool being able to still be with my father in that capacity, in addition to personally, but having him there, having not just a cheerleader per se, but having that wisdom. That is like, I'm 41 years old, and I just need to learn so much more in what we do. And there's things that he's done twice, and that he can just give us that guidance that we need to avoid getting into a pitfall. And it's just great having him as a sounding board.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Would you say that being an entrepreneur for you was a calling on your life?
I don't know. It's a very deep question that you're asking. I guess you could say it was a calling. I certainly believe that God puts purpose inside of all of us, that He expects us to pull out and to identify what that is. And I believe that our mission in life is to fulfill the purpose that's inside of us, and to say that it's not just one thing as entrepreneurship. It could be a myriad of things, right? It doesn't have to be that you have to be your own, a business owner or an entrepreneur. But I truly believe that since I was a kid, there was that I wanted to be in business for myself. And a lot of it had to do with my upbringing, right? Our dad at a young age would always talk to us about not working for somebody else, but working for yourself. I can remember conversations when I was 7 or 8, him talking to us about entrepreneurship and being in business and being the one that's making the decisions for yourself and not being beholden to a job. And there's nothing wrong with that either. There's nothing wrong with having a job or anything like that. But whether it was a calling per se, that's, I guess you could say that. I'm more on like the line of purpose, like what's our purpose? Because my purpose could change tomorrow, right? Like it's just to say, what I'm doing today, tomorrow God could say, "Hey, look, this is not what you're doing." But He's going to use those gifts and those experiences that I have to do this next season of my life that that I'm in right now. So I don't know if I answered your question or not, but
I love that answer.
I did my best.
I love it. Before we finish with our success question, what's your vision for Big Sky coming up? Because you've always been a visionary. It's very clear, and to see things come about that you've seen. What do you see? What's next for Big Sky?
Yeah. So for us right now, it's more of a capacity goal as far as us being. Building more projects under construction at one time, which is going to involve expansion and growth. Probably hiring at least 3 to 5 people in the next 12 to 18 months. There's not really anything on the radar that's going to expand the region or the territory that we serve, but more so tapping into the opportunities that are here in this market, right? So, and there's different industries that we're trying to get more involved in. I mean, right now, like we're in the middle of this you should say marketing campaign. We just had a lot of stuff done with our website. We're doing a lot of like online, social media presence and advertisements and stuff like that. And we're kind of gearing up for that. It's an expensive endeavor, but I mean, we truly believe in what we're doing. So that coupled with what's going on in the economy right now, we think that's going to be, very, very attainable.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. To finish here, mind you, this answer could be different 10 years from now, and I'm sure it'll be different in 20. But success, what does success mean to you?
Yeah. Man, it could be different tomorrow, right? I mean, that question, it's so subjective to the moment in time that you're in. But it comes back to purpose, right? I mean, I truly believe that God places inside of us purpose, a calling, and so much of it is not necessarily around one thing of having a successful business, right? It's easy to say, you've got a successful business, you got a great family, your kids are great, everyone's healthy. I mean, and those are all great things, right? I mean, to me, success is just all about balance, right? I mean, just when you've got balance in life, when you've got balance where you're not beholden to your work, or you're not beholden to some other commitments that you have, but you've got balance with your family, you're spending time with your wife if you're married, you're spending time with your kids if you have them, you're serving in your church if you go to one, you're a part of the community, you're involved in your business or whatever it is, and you're helping develop growing people, and you've got balance. To me, that is success, because it's so easy, and this happened to me in pre-2008, is I had zero balance. And I was single. Right? I wasn't even married with kids, and I had no balance. How that's possible, I'm not sure. But I think I worked like 80 hours a week from 2003 to 2007. And I still wasn't prepared for what happened in 2008, right? I mean, I was still an idiot. But to me today, it like a great week for me is when I can just go to work, have a great week, have date night with my wife, go to my kids' soccer games, do devotionals at night with my boys. I mean, it's just like being able to just hit all those things, to me, that's awesome. That's awesome. Having all that said, it takes resources to do those things, right? So I mean, I don't want to marginalize the financial component, because it is important. I know my wife thinks it's important. So yeah, but I mean, to me, it's all about balance. I mean, life it's all about it.
So good.
Nice.
Ryan, thank you. I do appreciate you cutting out time and coming, and really too, like the way that you share your story and journey, and it is encouraging, like that. That's I find myself being encouraged by it. So we appreciate you so much in coming and sharing with us.
Cool, man. My pleasure.
We'll do round 2 soon.
Go Blue Sky.
Go Blue Sky. It's Blue Sky forever. That'll be our hashtag for this one. Man, that was great.